Welcome to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Don Camber.
Hello, live from the OC Talk Radio studios at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Don Camber with another great guest positively impacting our community. Today, I welcome United Nations Association Orange County Chapter President Dave Rice. He's a visionary leader dedicated to promoting human rights and the sustainable development goals globally and in Orange County. He serves on the boards of the World Affairs Council, Orange County Chapter, Free Thought Society, SoCal Secular Coalition, United Nations Association Orange County, also known as UNAOC, is a community chapter of the United Nations Association of the United States. Its primary goal is to mobilize individuals who are passionate about supporting the United Nations and its initiatives. Thank you, Dave, for being on Impact OC.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dave, please share with us the United Nations Orange County initiatives.
Right. So the standing joke on the UNAOC is that we've been here 40 years and very few people know about us. And I've lived here that long and likewise had never heard of it until just a few years ago in a presentation on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights given by the current president of the UNAOC. And when I heard about that, and it just resonated, I had just recently retired and was involved in some local issues. I've been involved in the San Onofre nuclear waste issue for several years on the task force there, et cetera, and was just looking for ways to really be involved and make a difference. And when he mentioned United Nations Association, I started looking at it. It became, clear that here was an opportunity to actually do something. But again, the focus has been historically on trying to educate the public about why the UN matters and global issues and global affairs. And often, local folks just don't care that much about that. So they've struggled, frankly, being that relevant. I mean, we've done cultural dinners, we've done a lot for the refugee communities, et cetera. But to really have a major impact has not happened. And so I know we'll talk about it some more, but as I started learning about the UN's Sustainable Development Goals that you mentioned, and their initiative to say the only way we're going to achieve these globally is if we take this model that has been created and is being adopted globally by many countries and apply it locally to our communities, is it going to ever get done? And that became a clear path forward for our chapter. So we pivoted to really adopting the local SDG model as our goal. And it really just means let's take the issues that we're dealing with here in Orange County and in California beyond. The number one issue being affordable housing, more than likely, and then everything related to that, which would be homelessness, mental health, crime, addiction, healthcare, all of the above, and climate. And how can we do a better job of actually addressing those issues in a way that can engage various leaders in our community, not just our government leaders, in a way that can help them set goals and targets, and a way that can help start deriving some transparency and accountability towards really making progress on those issues.
So how are you attacking these?
So the real key, the reason that all of this has been struggling, these efforts have been struggling globally. And if you look at the progress on the targets for the SDGs, the sustainable goals, we're halfway there from 2015 to 2030 is the time frame for those. The goals that were set, we're only 15% or so of the way to target. COVID's had a big impact, et cetera. There's a lot of bad things going on in the world just really, making it difficult, and the inequalities, et cetera. Our economic model isn't helping. But the real key is that there's so much information now out there that is needed to really come together and help us better understand where are we on these issues and how can we start tracking and measuring progress. That's the missing piece here. So my background was in information sciences. I was at IBM and a number of other companies in the tech world. And it became clear to me that that's where we needed to focus. So we have basically partnered up with a technology firm in the Bay Area that can address pulling together all this data. Their goal is literally to unify all data. And we are about ready to, do some really exciting things with them around some programs that can help get the ball rolling.
What are some of the demographics of the members?
Yeah, our members we've got about 300 members. More than 80% or so are young folks. Young folks being defined anybody under 26. But we've got a lot of high schoolers. There's, every high school has a model UN that's teaching kids about the UN, and it's really a good experience for them. So we're looking to actually connect with many of those students as well. They don't focus too much on the Sustainable Development Goals. It's more about just, sort of taking countries and what's going on with various countries, which is important, but there's a gap on the SDGs. So we're looking to bring that in. So many of our members and the growing members, like the chapter we just started here at UC Irvine, are either high school or college students. And then we have, just a good set of, we're all volunteers. So we've got a good set of quality individuals who are contributing to the chapter as well. About 60 or so that are active.
So how do they operate?
Well, we have several, as I said, initiatives, and we're all virtual, right? So we don't have an office space, but we do have several things going on. We have monthly meetings that are live in Santa Ana at a wonderful school we partnered up with that teaches global citizenship and the SDGs to local students there, a K-12 school. We've got weekly calls for anybody interested, and it's just kind of update calls on what's going on. And then there's a number of other sidebar initiatives, if you will, with separate calls. There's kind of a social media team, marketing call. We have a big climate team and a big focus around climate. And so that meets every Tuesday morning on Zooms. So there's a lot of different initiatives. We have a UNA women's group and a big focus. And so that group of folks will meet separately and do a bunch of different engagements. They've had recently an event on a very important issue called CEDAW, C-E-D-A-W, the Convention for the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. Turns out the U.S. is one of like 7 countries in the world not signed on to that convention. So they're, focusing on things like that. Certainly on trafficking, big issue in Orange County, and things like that. So between the UNA Women, the Youth Council that we've recently just created, which is very exciting to get youth really engaged and involved and at the table, and then the local, we call it the local Sustainable Development Goals, we call that SIA, or Sustainable Impact Alliance, those things that keep everybody pretty busy.
And talk about the alliance.
Yeah, so again, it's called an alliance because our whole goal is really just twofold. One, to be a catalyst to try to inform more and more people about, this need, that there is a way to actually address and better and solve the issues that we're all trying to deal with here. Do you know that Orange County has 9,300 nonprofit organizations? Crazy. And many of them are, they're siloed and working often in their own space. And so there's a need then to not only inform the public as to what's happening here and provide good information. And then the second point, though, is to be a collaborator. So we're looking to be a catalyst and a collaborator to take advantage of all of the good things that are going on here in Orange County and to try to help everyone get together, kind of build more of a strength in numbers idea and create more synergy.
Do you need to have a relationship with government of some sort?
We absolutely do. And so government is key, the policymakers. So we're, meeting with various elected officials, trying to inform them and get them on board with this kind of idea of, hey, look, there's a way that we can try to come together and not, right now government leaders, I think, feel like it's all on them, and they shouldn't. It shouldn't be. It should be on our leaders from the business community. It should be on leaders from academia. And as well as from the nonprofits, our major leaders. And so our goal is to work to get all of them together on this same page and work together to come together. And once we can, on the issues that become priorities, look at who's doing what in them, where's the data that we need to get at, how can we start tracking where we're at, and then setting targets and starting to track progress on these digital dashboards. That's the key.
Has there been any world resolutions as a result of the United Nations?
Well, there have been a lot of world resolutions. One of the most important ones is in climate, and it's known as the Paris Accord. So in 2015, that was the first major global agreement that everybody made commitments to trying to keep our global emissions at a level to keep temperatures at 1.5 degrees centigrade to 2 degrees centigrade of an increase over what they were when the Industrial Revolution began and a lot of these emissions issues began. So that's been one of the major ones. Beyond that, there's a lot of efforts to, put a lot of other kinds of things around that, but we still are very committed to that.
So how does each of the groups within the United Nations work to get some of these resolutions?
So just to be clear, we are not the United Nations. We are the United Nations Association, which is a separate entity. It's a nonprofit. It is global. There is a World Federation of United Nations Associations. They're all, for the most part, volunteer members of a community who care about global affairs. They care about the UN. They think it really matters, that it's in our best interest for global peace and security and to also solve our problems, to have an entity like the UN to help address these things. So they come together in countries around the world. Again, in the US, we have 200 chapters. California has 20 chapters, and, all working together on these things. So the UNA's role as a nonprofit is to really advocate for the UN and to try to promote and educate, the public, and then work on some of these issues. But as young people, for example, who come through this, more and more are interested in sustainability and what can they do to spend a career in this. They'd love to commit to how do I, really find a career that can help me make a difference in the world, while I am able to monetize and have a good, healthy career at it. So we're trying to help bridge that gap as well.
And how are you able to do that? I mean, they can meet, but do you have speakers? Are they doing research?
Right. So we do have, at our monthly meetings, we do have speakers every month from, just a range of issues, and, really exciting speakers. We've invited this next, it's the third Saturday of the month, and in the morning, and we've invited a speaker who is a 15-year-old from San Juan who started a whole waste recycling business. I don't know if you know of this young
I think
individual.
I saw an article about it.
Yeah, named Ryan, and what an awesome thing. It's now global, and so this is such a big. So what a great example for our young people. So we even invited them to come and share. We have two major events of the year that reach out to the community. One is a celebration of the UN. It's the UN Day. It's always October 24th every year is the day that the charter was signed. We're actually doing it this year here at UCI, over at the Continuing Education School. Expect to have 200 to 250 people for dinner, nice big gala event. And there we're going to have speakers from the program that I started talking about with the fire prevention program. It's a big program called Alert California. Somebody in charge of that program for the state of California out of UC San Diego, along with UCI's own chief digital officer, Tom Andriola, is working with us. He's involved with that and is going to be talking, and then the CEO of the technology company will all be talking about that initiative. So that'll be really exciting.
And Alert California is connected to climate change.
Alert
to some
California
extent.
is absolutely connected to climate change. So fires have been, apart from affordable housing, fires is probably the other major issue right in California. We just saw this huge fire that's happened. Over the last 10 years, I think the 5 worst fires in terms of destruction and property and everything else were in 2020 and 2021. And what happened is that somebody at UC San Diego, a gentleman named Neil Driscoll, came up with this idea of actually installing cameras throughout the state that would sense fire and smoke and could, through AI, communicate automatically that event to the response agencies. And so they undertook that whole program and started engaging with the public utilities, and a bunch of agencies throughout the state of California and CAL FIRE to implement this. And now over 1,000 cameras have been installed, and it's really one of the most successful, effective programs that California's been able to implement, all coming out of this basically research project at UC San Diego. Last year alone, the numbers are that over 1,000 fires that started were able to be suppressed without growing because of this response. So that's really exciting. And yes, we're going to be working with them with the platform that we're talking about, creating better digital dashboards and a better ability to handle all this data coming from the cameras 24/7. And then from that, our goal is to take that and expand it to more of a climate dashboard for the state of California. So we would like to offer the state an ability to actually track our energy usage real time, data coming from the utilities, our emissions data coming from satellites. How are we doing on solar roofs, right? And solar panels? How are we doing on EVs and charging stations and infrastructure? And it'll give the state of California an opportunity to roll out kind of a standardized template of this dashboard capability with real data to our cities. They're all required to develop climate action plans. And this will help them do a better job with that. And more importantly, track progress so that we can really see what's happening and engage now the community, and everybody can have a better idea of what can they do to work together to be more effective. So it's a pretty exciting program.
What about affordable housing?
Yeah, affordable housing's just, there's so much there. And I think, but like everything else, we need to know for sure what the information is telling us. We need to know how many units of all kinds are available, what could be reconfigured into affordable housing units, what kind of commercial space is available that could possibly be reconfigured. We need much better information than currently is available. We need to have a better understanding of the demographics, of the people and of what the income levels are, because today, businesses struggle having employees work and live in Orange County. They often have to commute, from, long distances away. Young universities struggle. I mean, young people can't stay here anymore. There's so much there, not to mention what it's doing with the homeless community. So there's a need for so many solutions, tiny homes, et cetera. And all of this can happen if we pull everybody together into more of a collective effort around that issue. That's a data-driven initiative, and over time we can, I think, make real progress with that.
Well, the point in time survey that occurs is probably very helpful.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And you can just the same thing will apply to every issue we're dealing with, right? There's this. The county has a list of the top issues that they're addressing. Certainly, transportation is one right now, and then we've got erosion. We've got the slides down in San Clemente. It's affected the train, which is, I think, the second most traveled route, commercial train route in the country. Huge financial impact. So there's a lot of issues that just need to be prioritized, and then you need working groups on each of them to start coming together, finding out who's doing what's the data that we need access to, how do we get that into a framework that makes sense for us and gives us meaningful information, and then it can steer towards more effective, actions and solutions. That's the whole plan.
What are the membership requirements to be part of your group?
It's really, it's inexpensive. First of all, I mean, I think the membership fees are like $50 a year. And for students, they're free. Anybody under 26 actually is free. But, we want members who care about the issues and want to become engaged. And so really, beyond that, it's just, how can we help our members, fulfill their own personal interests and goals. Most everybody out there that would become involved with us, many are in the refugee community. Many are from third world countries, and they appreciate the UN, and so they come to the UN and they see our organization as something that can help them come together and have more of a voice in the community. So that matters too. But then on the environment and sustainability issues, it's really about, what would somebody like to do? They want to become involved in the oceans issues, in climate and emissions, what is it? And we'll try to point them into that direction.
Why are you so passionate about it?
I love solving problems. That's kind of always been something that I really kind of define myself, I guess, around sort of big picture problem solver. I've always been frustrated by, I guess we blame government, but again, I don't think it's just government, by our civil society's inability to effectively address important, obvious issues, whatever they are. And largely it's because they just don't have the same measurements and guidelines that we get in the business world. We don't have strategic plans. We don't have goals and objectives, and we don't have accountability, and we don't have ways to measure progress. So all of these lead to a broken system right now. And it's exciting to be able to actually find a way to address some of that through this whole idea and this whole model.
So how does this group compare to the one maybe in LA and in San Diego?
Yeah, good question. All of the groups are, sort of have their own, if you will, charters and their own visions of, what they're wanting to do. So I would say it differs. The San Diego chapter has been one of our most successful chapters historically. Eleanor Roosevelt, who was one of the original, that she's the author, one of the co-authors of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, our first ambassador to the UN, Franklin Roosevelt's wife, lived there. Her family has been there. They've been a part of that chapter. It's been pretty cool. But they've got an actual building there at Balboa Park in San Diego, which is nice. And so, yeah, there's just kind of all over the map. But I'd say most of the chapters of the 20 in California, we've come together to do a number of climate events. So that's been a major focus, I think, just trying to educate the folks more on what are the real issues and what can be done. What can people do to, move the needle a little bit.
Is this fulfilling your expectations for the group?
I would say that I am done a lot of things in my life. Like I said, I'm probably feel as rewarded personally doing the work that I'm doing right now as I ever have. It's so rewarding and it's so hopeful. I think that's the big thing. We've got so much going on, right, in our world and in our news and our media and everything else that's just depressing. And it's, I'm an optimist, but it's hard to feel real hope based on real, positive movement. And this is clearly something that gives us that. So that's exciting.
How can people get on board?
You can just go check us out at our website at it's una-oc.org. And just say, hey, you'd be interested and reach out.
Thank you, United Nations Association Orange County Chapter President Dave Rice, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.